Good afternoon and welcome. Today we're going to talk about Jake Debrusk and his recent request for a trade out of Boston. Debrusk has had excellent seasons. His first couple seasons were great. He had a high of 27 goals, I believe, a couple seasons ago. The past two seasons, including this season and last season, have been subpar in terms of production. His relationship with Bruce Cassidy isn't in a good spot. He's a great guy, great asset. I wish nothing but the best for him, but he's requested a trade out of Boston, and he's been in the trade rumors for I don't know, year and a half at this point. So it's a good way for him and his agent to kind of put pressure on Don Sweeney to actually make a move. So he still can play in the NHL on another team. So Jake Debrusk, this is his last season. He's currently signed for $3.675 million, which honestly, with 25-30 goal ceiling, is not bad. He's still young. He's still a restricted free agent at the end of the season, which is also a nice bargaining tool when attempting to trade him. So today we're going to look at potential trade options the Bruins may have. So I've heard a lot about trading for Dylan Strome in Chicago one-on-one. I don't think that would be a bad move personally. I've heard a lot about trading him for Mason Appleton. That would clear up a little bit more cap space. I think Appleton's around 1.5 million. Don't quote me on that. I haven't looked it up. But that would clear up some cap space, as we have currently 2.266 million in cap space. So that may, depending on what Tuukka Rask expects as a contract if he comes back, big if, but hopefully from, a Bruins perspective, if he comes back, maybe that's where the cap space goes to. There's a lot of trade speculation on just trading Jake Debrusk one for a quick return, an NHL-ready player who can produce, maybe is having a bit of a down year or needs to change of scenery as Debrusk. Personally, I think they have a real issue with depth scoring. I guess it's not really a personal perspective. It's a known perspective. They have an issue with depth scoring. So what I would like to see is a solid second-line center. Dylan Strome is great. He has a high ceiling. He could be that second-line center, but there's a risk involved with that. Again, he hasn't been producing these past couple seasons immensely. So what I look at with this is the Bruins have a surplus of NHL-ready defensive players at this point, right? You have McAvoy, who's on a good contract. He gets a nice pay bump next year. Great. You have Carlo, who's on a great contract. Grizzlick's on a great contract. Forbert's been playing out of his mind this year, discovering his offensive game. Fantastic. Riley's developed an excellent two-way game as of late. Love Mike Riley. But right there, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defensive players, $3 million or over for at least the next 3 seasons. So carrying on, you have Connor Clifton, $1 million for the next 2 years, and Jakub Zaboral, who's making a league minimum. His contract expires after this year. He's a restricted free agent. Honestly, the way he's looked the past few games, if he can keep that up, he's going to be in for a pay raise. I don't know how much. It might be like a little over $1 million, but nonetheless, it's still a pay raise. It's still the more the Bruins are going to have against their cap next season. And what we won't really talk about in Boston, a lot of the commentators don't talk about it. Jack Edwards, Andy Brickley. There's a guy in the minor leagues, and it's not Vakanainen. It's Jack Khan. He played 3 games last season. He's a great defensive prospect. He's one of the best defensive prospects in the game at the moment, and that's my opinion. Please feel free to let me know who you think is, top 5, top 10 defensive prospects in the AHL. But I love Jack Khan. I think he's such a talented, great player. I think he can add a lot to this Bruins team. So, based on that, you have one of your defensive players who's making $3 million or more, on your third line. Is that practical? No. Do you want to give Akan more playing time? Maybe Akan and Zaboral swap out every few games, get him more exposure, get him more experience, get him more acclimated to the NHL. That's what I'm more apt to do. So then you have to look at, okay, if you're going to consider trading out a defensive player, who? You're not going to trade off McAvoy. You just signed him to a long-term extension who has a massive cap hit. Not many teams will be willing to take on that cap hit, let alone will the Bruins be open to losing their top defensive player. Carlo, personally, I think he took a home team discount. Dude is incredible. Great defensive defenseman. He signed for 6 years at $4.1 million. That's fantastic. Grzelcyk, it was when he first signed the contract, I was like, that might be a little much, but it's turned out to be such a bargain of a contract. Grzelcyk's an excellent defensive player as well. Amazing skating ability, great offensive potential. Forbert's been playing out of his mind this year. I like Forbert. I didn't see that coming. And Riley, oh my God, he's he came into the league with Minnesota. He had a great offensive game. It still needed polishing when he first came to the NHL, quite a bit of polishing. But defensively, he was kind of a liability. And over his career, he's really worked on both ends of his game. He's become a really excellent two-way player. Some of the scoring chances he's had in the past few Bruins games have been incredible. Could easily have translated into goals. So, who do you trade? Personally, I think Riley's the odd man out. I love Riley. But I think, so this is what I would do. I would bundle Debrusk and Riley in a trade. I don't know. Maybe a draft pick. I don't want to give up draft picks in what's supposed to be a really stacked draft this year. Be nice to get a draft pick in return, even if it's a mid-round, like third or fourth round pick. You never know. I mean, Connor Garland was drafted in the 5th round. There's always potential. So I would trade them two as a bundle to a team that needs a defensive player, maybe like the Canucks, or a lot of other teams. The Canucks really just need a change. They're in a rough spot. And you trade Debrusk, second-line winger potential for a solid second-line center. You need a second-line center. So I don't know what Sweeney is able to pull off. I haven't been overly impressed with him since he's joined the Bruins in terms of making trades. There's been a few that have been great. The Hall trade he pulled that off. That was an impressive trade. But we'll see. So personally, I would trade a defensive player and Jake Debrusk. And draft picks going either way to receive a solid, hopefully younger second-line center. Patrice Bergeron's getting older. You want that second-line center to be able to step into the first-line center role. That's why you want a strong second-line center. We don't know when Bergeron's going to start regressing. Dude's aging like a fine wine. Oh my God. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's incredible. Plays every game with heart. It's, he's one of the best in the game, but he's also, 36? Also, don't quote me on that. I haven't looked that up. I think he's 36. But, nonetheless, his career's winding down to an end. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But you need to start building your depth. You need to start preparing for the future. You have Bergeron, who's, you're only top 6 center at this point, and you're not going to expect Hoyle to come in and be a first-line center in like 2 years. That's not realistic. And then who else do you have? Lazar, Trent Frederick. Great players. I love them. They're not quite at top 6 status yet, and I don't know if they will be in the next couple of years. If they reach that top 6 potential. So I'm curious to see what happens. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear potential trades. I've watched a lot of different videos, read a lot of different things about potential Jake Debrusk moves, and I like a lot of them, but not a lot of these trades necessarily address the problem of fulfilling a second to future first line center, in the next few years. That's personally what I want to see. They need a defensive player, sure. My goodness, my dog's trying to play with me right now. Please don't mind that. I'll give him some love in a bit. But we'll see. Let me know what you think. I'm curious. Maybe there's another player you trade with Debrusk, maybe a prospect. I don't know. The prospect pool is pretty limited, so we'll see what happens. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.